Hello again, and welcome to the Nutrition Digest podcast. We are your hosts and registered dietitians. I am Tara Valenti.
I'm Summer Merrick.
And I'm Alicia Kugler.
Today we have one of my favorite people on earth joining us, my friend Milad. Milad is a longevity coach. He is a true master of movement, and him and I have spent many long hours together running, traveling to destination races, doing all kinds of cool stuff. We've also shared quite a few pizzas and gotten deep into what it means to live a life centered around health, but more importantly, feeling good and feeling good for as long as we possibly can. It's something that everyone on this podcast is very passionate about, and Milad has made it his mission to show people how to stay strong, active, and pain-free, and as a result, happier. So thanks for being here, Milad.
Wow. Thanks for having me. And that was probably the best intro anyone's ever given me in my life thus far. So thank you for that.
So besides being like a longevity coach, do you feel like is that how you primarily describe yourself and what you do, or like, is there more to it?
Honestly, I need to describe myself like that more often, because I feel like, and this is kind of part of relating to the Persian stuff we were talking before we hit record. In Persian culture, there's kind of this emphasis on being very humble and kind of like downplaying what you do or what you're about or what have you. Mm-hmm. So usually, like when I first meet people, like if someone is, at a party and we're getting to know each other, like, oh, what do you do? I usually just say, yeah, I'm like a personal trainer. And then, if people care about that enough, I'll dive into, the longevity stuff. And I really like how you put it. Just like, I do love the title of movement master. I think for me, movement was kind of my first love, and out of movement and learning more about it and always kind of being a student of movement, it's kind of led me down these different paths of sustainable nutrition and the lifestyle stuff, and definitely the pain-free and the pain management element of things. Because I've gotten injured a lot in my life, and I'm a very stiff individual, just like baseline, like, the presidential fitness test that you do in high school, and you had the sit and reach test at like whatever, I forgot what it was, like freshman year. I was hands down.
What is the presidential fitness test?
Oh my gosh.
I'm Canadian, so I'm just like, what is this? What are you talking about?
I broke my school's record every year for the sit and reach.
Hell yeah.
I could go well beyond the box. I think I could still probably do it, but I could never run the mile.
Well, I won the hang from the bar thing. I was like the best in my class. They had like basically presidential fitness test was all of these stupid tests that you had to do that, like, I don't even know what the point of it was, to just like make sure that kids were staying fit. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
So there was like flexibility, there was running, and then there was like, for the girls, you just had to like do a chin up and hang there. But the guys,
flexed arm hang.
Had to do pull-ups. Yeah. Anyway, so
because girls shouldn't do pull-ups because we're too weak.
We are weaklings, of course. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But Milad, so you didn't pass that test. You were too stiff.
Yeah, I'm the opposite of Summer. It was like crazy to me. I'm like, how are you all reaching the box? Like, I was so stiff, and I mean, I still have very stiff hamstrings. I can definitely touch my toes now. But I think just generally speaking, I'm very, very stiff. And that led to a lot of issues playing sports. Like I grew up playing sports, but because I was so freaking stiff, I was constantly spraining ankles, straining my hamstrings, lower back issues, just like everything under the sun. So I kind of had to figure out, okay, why am I always in pain? And, besides the acute rehab stuff, how can I prevent it going forward? Because I love movement. I want to continue to do this thing for a long time. So yeah, I mean, lots of blood, sweat, and laughs kind of brought me to this point.
Yeah, I will say Milad is a really great person to be friends with for a lot of reasons. But one of them is like anytime I have anything that I'm feeling, I'll bring it up and Milad's like immediately got like 3 exercises. He's like, do this, this, and this, and it'll get better. We were running together yesterday, I was talking about this weird thing that's happening with my left leg. And he immediately was like, that's probably your lower back. And I was like, that's totally right. Cause my lower back is hurting right now and it's super stiff. And I like deadlifted too heavy. And I'm pretty sure it is my lower back. It's causing like a sciatic thing, like you said. And I mean, without fail, he's right. And those exercises always help. And this is what he does. Like he helps people kind of like navigate those little issues that could hold you back and prevents those little issues from holding you back so that you can keep being active and not, be bummed out and sedentary because that sucks.
What exactly is a longevity coach? Like, how would you describe that to any of our listeners?
Yeah, that's a great question because longevity is probably the biggest buzzword right now. And I think just on a high level, I describe it as a movement specialist, a lifestyle specialist that can kind of guide you through different protocols to improve not only the lifespan of your life, but also the health span. So we're not just trying to live longer, we're also trying to improve the quality of life as you're living longer, right? Because it's like, sure, you can brute force your way into old age, but no one wants to be like 90 and barely able to think and be independent and take care of themselves. Like you want to be 90 and you want to be running marathons, or at least I do, or half marathons, or being fully independent. So doing all of those things to help you get there. And there's a ton of things to help you get there. Within my scope of practice, we don't necessarily, because the base knowledge is a kinesiology degree. So it's not like an MD or, like yourselves, like a registered dietitian. So we're more of like the big picture stuff, primarily focused around movement and injury prevention, but also just educating around nutrition. And the big thing for us is just the low hanging fruit of recovery. So just basic stuff like sleep and decreasing your stress, doing fun, creative things, having community around you. And then also just like, what are you putting inside your body that's not food? So like smoking, THC, I guess today's topic, like alcohol. So all of those things. I think right now what people associate longevity with is like, okay, like maybe hormone replacement, or like someone like Brian Johnson that's like doing all these biohacking experiments and getting really into the nitty gritty. But from my interpretation of the research and from my experience and from collaborating with others, it seems like when it comes to longevity, the thing that really works is kind of like the basic stuff. So make sure you're moving, make sure you're doing some sort of like injury prevention stuff. And for me, that's like stretching, therapeutic exercises, things like that. Make sure you're doing some cardio, make sure you're eating a relatively nutrient dense diet, and then get some sleep.
I really like that. And I think we're seeing a big shift of a lot of people, especially millennials. Like we're heading from like a hardcore fitness, whether you're doing like bodybuilding or powerlifting, like I'm going to max out, I'm going to get the best aesthetic, like shifting more towards the longevity. I think a lot of people do confuse biohacking and longevity. I hear some people use that interchangeably. And I think for the people, it does get very, very confusing. I don't know if you've experienced that.
The term biohacking immediately makes me roll my eyes. Like I hate that term so much. But yeah, I mean, I think to me, longevity focus it has nothing to do with like biohacking and like tapping into some kind of like secret way to optimize and all of these silly things that people do. They're often fads. They're often extreme. I think that they're more short-term focused rather than long-term focused, whereas longevity is literally like, that's the definition of it. We're looking at trying to be healthy for as long as we possibly can and to feel good for as long as we possibly can. Whereas biohacking is just like people trying to take shortcuts.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. But Milad, you mentioned, you hinted at the topic that we kind of wanted to talk about today. So this podcast, we're going to release it as our first podcast in 2026. And I know a lot of people at the beginning of the year like to participate in dry January, and they're setting goals around alcohol consumption or consumption around substances in general. So, when we were on a run not that long ago, you mentioned that you have given yourself a little bit of a challenge to abstain from alcohol for 3 months, 90 days, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about that because you're getting a head start before all the dry January people,
Yeah.
and you're setting your goal much larger, 3 times longer than a dry January person would be aiming for. I know you've done dry January in the past. What was the catalyst that kind of made you think, okay, I think I'm going to take a serious break from drinking alcohol?
That's a great question. Also, hello to people in 2026 in the future. I hope it's good out there. Um, I think the catalyst to this decision, I actually don't even think I've told you this yet, but it was like a Monday, and I had gone into the gym to film some content, and Maya and Stefan were there. They were just like working out. I think they were doing one of their like high rocks workouts, so it's like super epic, like sled pulls. I think Stefan didn't have his shirt on, like just doing his thing, like super jacked. But everyone's like smiling, having a good time. And I think the night before I had like a few cocktails, and I was just running on like 50% of my usual energy level and just like enthusiasm for life. So I was like, I mean, I usually have just like a very neutral affect in general. So I was kind of like in the gutter a little bit. And they were just like having a blast, and it was super fun and it was super energetic. And Stefan was telling me about how he basically is having like a really great year. He had done like multiple marathons at that point, and then he was going to do the Honolulu Marathon in a few weeks, and I was actually going to go out there too to do the Honolulu 10K, which is basically the same start time, same event. And the way that he was just like talking about it, and his energy and his smile was just so contagious. Like I felt like I was watching one of those like inspirational YouTube videos that are super wholesome. And he was just like, "Yeah, I've stopped drinking, and honestly, bro, like it's been the best decision of my life. Like I feel so good. I'm training, I'm able to recover, and I've ran like 3 marathons this year." And you know how sometimes when people are in that phase where they're just like grinding super hard and they're doing a bunch of events and they're just like eating healthy, it's kind of manic, the energy, and it's like, whoa, like it seems like you're doing this for the wrong reasons, or you're beating yourself up and this is not sustainable. Stefan's energy was not like that at all. It felt clean. It did not feel manic. It felt pure. It felt from the heart. And also, if obviously people don't know Stefan, Stefan is a trainer at Custom Fit, and we've known him for a couple of years now. Great guy. Anyways, so that part of the non-drinking thing kind of, there was a seed that was planted. And then I think that weekend I was just like talking to my girlfriend. I was like, oh, I think I'm just gonna stop drinking for 90 days. Like I've never done it. I've been drinking since I was 16. Not like an alcoholic or anything, but at least 1 to 2 drinks every week, sometimes a lot more, sometimes none, since I was 16, and I'm 32. So that's over half my life of ingesting poison. Like, let's call it what it is, right? It's literally poison. And I have been doing that. I've still been a relatively healthy individual, but what would happen if I stopped doing that? And I think it was just time. Alcohol at that point hadn't been really serving me like it serves others. Usually the healthy way of consuming alcohol is like you do it socially, it makes you feel good, it decreases your stress, maybe it helps you like fall asleep at night or declutter your mind. For me, it was kind of doing the opposite. I would have like 1 or 2 drinks. I would feel good for 15 minutes max, and then I would have a blaring headache, and then I would literally just want to go home and sleep and not talk to anyone. Then I would wake up in the middle of the night, stay up for a couple hours. Then the next morning I would be hungover. I would order a greasy burrito, and then it just starts. It's like a negative feedback loop from hell. It's like you have the burrito, you get indigestion, you don't work out, and then you get bad sleep again. And that 1 to 2 drink, that small decision ends up causing 3 days of negative consequences. So I was like, you know what? It's time. And I think first I was like, I'll do it for a month. And then I felt really good for a week. So I was like, okay, let's just up the ante and let's try 90 days. And for me, it's just like a tiny experiment. I read this book at the beginning of this year by this, she's a cognitive scientist. It's called Tiny Experiments. I forgot what her name is. I'm sorry, but we can maybe link it or something.
Yeah, we can look it
Great
up.
book. One of the best books I've ever read in my life. I'm very used to reading these like hustle culture productivity books where it's like, you got to grind, bro. You got to have the best habits. You got to increase revenue. You got to do all these things, which as a small business owner, like it's very motivating. But I got to a point where I kind of needed some different messaging. And her whole thing is just like treat life as a series of tiny experiments. Low stakes, just be like, I'm curious about this thing and I'm going to do it. So my tiny experiment is not drinking for 90 days. So that's kind of what we're doing.
That is so timely that you mentioned the tiny experiments mentality because I mean, so many people have thought about resolutions they want to create this year and goals that they want to achieve. And that's a little bit of a mindset shift and a different way of approaching it as compared to the traditional resolution setting. If you are like, I'm going to just run a bunch of tiny experiments this year and see how they go and not put a lot of weight into it, that could be a lot more of a kind of like a healthy way of approaching the New Year's and the goals that you want to try to experiment with rather than like go hard or go home. I'm going to do 75 hard or like whatever it is, like super intense goals that sometimes people will set when they feel like they really need a shakeup. Oftentimes we know that those goals like don't really pan out. So why not just run a tiny experiment on yourself? And I think that 90 days alcohol free is really a really cool goal. And also just thinking about the physiology of alcohol and what it does to the body. Everyone reacts a little bit different, but generally alcohol is working the same on all of us. It's ethanol. It's a poison. It's toxic. It's not going to benefit us in any kind of way physically. So if you think about all of the benefits that can come from taking a break from alcohol, it's kind of amazing.
It's interesting. I was going to say, Tara, that a lot of people, that's the one thing that they don't want to change. So I don't know if any of you have seen that with your clients. I know a common thing that I see in my practice is having like these like executives, these finance people, these tech bros that they're like are really, really like pushing the envelope on their life, on their career, on their fitness goals. They come in, we go through the nutrition assessment, we talk about their activity, everything. Then I ask about alcohol and they're very resistant and unwilling to change that one thing. When a lot of times that one thing could unlock so much potential for them. And yeah, for some of them, we do get to that point that we do readdress that. And I do try to give them the education. I think all of us probably educate them on it. But it's interesting that that's the thing that a lot of people are just like so resistant in changing.
Yeah, I get the question a lot, like, how much should I drink? Like, how much is okay for me to drink? And if I'm choosing between like alcoholic beverages, like which one's the best one for me to choose health wise? And I have to like remind people, look, I'm a healthcare provider. I have to guide you honestly here. And I actually can't recommend that you drink any alcohol because no alcohol is good for you. In the olden days, like years and years ago, they had that rule that was like 1 drink a day for women, 2 drinks a day for men. They've wiped that out. We know now, all the research consistently says any amount of alcohol is bad for your health. Any amount of alcohol increases your risk of a slew of different types of cancers. And that's the long-term effect, but there's also short-term effects that are going to be negative as well when we think about anxiety and depression and mental health and just like, getting up and going to do your workout in the morning. There's all these other effects that are going to hit in the short term as well. So that question is always a little bit difficult to answer because I know I'm going to be giving people bad news. And it's like, we can talk about ways to strategize in terms of moderately consuming alcohol in a way that feels right for you. But you, at the end of the day, have to make that informed decision about how you want alcohol to show up in your life. I can't really tell you like, hey, 3 drinks a week is good. You get to make that choice for yourself. And that's kind of like what it's all about when it comes to all health behaviors is just having the agency to make that decision on your own.
I get a lot of clients who like to negotiate or try and negotiate with me when I'll tell them that. They'll ask, okay, how many drinks can I have a week? And I said, I'm not your mom and I'm not your dad. So I can't tell you what you can or can't do, but alcohol in itself isn't good for you. Like there's no good alcohol. And then there's a lot of negotiation with, yeah, but what if I do da 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 da? Like you can do whatever you want. And I can tell you from a caloric standpoint, some drinks will have less than others, but I can't tell you that it's good for you. Yeah, but what if I do this? Like the facts are the facts. Like you can't change that.
Or what about those like pills that you're supposed to be able to take before you drink alcohol that are supposed to like prevent hangovers? Like what are those?
I think
I don't even know.
Isn't it just bicarb or something stupid like that? Like it's out, or as electrolytes. There used to be so many of them on the market. You don't see them very much anymore.
I started getting them advertised to me again as the new year started approaching. I was like, this is such a scam.
Crazy.
Like just drink less.
There's that one that's called, I think it's called the Z-Biotic, and they're like it's like a little shot, and I think each shot is like $32.
Oh.
And the whole thing with that is, well, this is what they say. They say that it's basically synthetically designed probiotic that you ingest before alcohol, and that like the bacteria that's in it or whatever, the genetically designed bacteria helps break down a certain byproduct of the alcohol or some part of the alcohol in your stomach, which will then decrease indigestion or some of the downstream effects that will cause a hangover. And so obviously I bought it. This was like a year ago, and it gave me the worst GI pain I've ever had for like,
gosh,
I was like, oh, it's going to be it's going to be a great night. We're all going to go out. Took a shot of this, and it was horrible. I was like keeling over in pain. So,
so I just Googled it, and there's no human trials done on it to show that it's actually effective. And the only published journal articles on the Z-Biotic, which is a form of Bacillus probiotic, is actually founded by the company that released it.
Got it. So you, Milad, you bought a $32 stomach ache.
Yeah. I guess I was the human trial.
I was going to ask Milad, I think one of the things that, and we were talking about this before too, one of the things that people really struggle with when it comes to reducing alcohol intake or just cutting it out entirely, even if it's for a certain period of time, is just the social aspect. Like people tend to have a response when you tell them you're not drinking. Some people are supportive and they think it's really cool. Some people are not. And unfortunately, some people experience pressure to drink even when they might not want to, especially if that's the norm and like what they expect you to do because that's what you've always done or whatever. I know sometimes people will have issues with like their significant other or their partner who is still drinking alcohol and like wants them to also participate. Socially, how's that gone for you? I know you're like 30 something days in, right?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the social side of things? And I know you went out with friends last night. Like, how did it go? How are people responding?
Last night was fine. I feel that group of friends like knows. I typically don't really drink that much anyways when I go out. So they were cool about it. It wasn't a thing. But last night there was some crazy things that happened that reinforced me just being happy about my decision. Like basically last night there was a giant it was a outage, electricity outage in the city. And me and my group of friends from high school, we do this thing the weekend before Christmas where we all meet in the city in North Beach and we get drinks and then we go to Original Joe's and it's like a big reunion. Like sometimes upwards of 20 people are like hanging out. Anyways, so it was just like crazy getting to the bar, and then we get to the bar because not a lot of bars are open. It's just like this one super packed sports bar, and it's just super loud, and I'm trying to talk. I'm drinking like a soda water. I'm trying to catch up with friends. I'm like yelling, and in that moment I'm like, why am I here? Like this is the worst place to socialize. And then a fight breaks out, and it's it's just insane. So it really reinforced my decision. But in general, the social aspect, I feel like for me has not been that bad because I'm kind of notoriously known as setting my boundaries when it comes to those things. I'm kind of a grandpa, so when I go out, I'll get dinner and then I'll probably just go home after that. Like people know, like I'm not staying up until 2 a.m. and I'm really good at not giving in to peer pressure when it comes to drinking. So for me, it hasn't been that bad. And actually, I would say it's kind of been better for my social life because typically, and this is a reason that I'm doing this experiment. Typically, when I would drink, I would get sleepy like after 30 minutes and I just want to go home, or I'm just like quietly sitting in the corner or having very like superficial conversations because my brain doesn't work anymore. So I went to a family wedding a couple weeks ago. Everyone was drinking, having a good time, and I found that because I was sober, I was able to kind of stay out on the dance floor a little bit longer. And I was like connecting with people I usually don't connect with because, like, I have that 20-minute window where I'm like, okay, I'm feeling good. Let me talk to everyone. And then after that, if you didn't make the cut, I'm not going to talk to you. But I had energy for hours upon hours. So, not the typical response where people are like, okay, that's the hardest part. For me, it hasn't been really too bad, honestly. And I think where the culture is right now, at least in my circles, is a lot of people are quitting drinking or they're moderating their drinking. So no one is like, what the heck, man? Like, why are you being such a downer? So no, really nothing negative. And even, a lot of people will say like, oh, I'm finding myself to be bored at night. I usually go out to a bar or get a cocktail or something like that. And I don't really have those issues. I feel like, again, this goes back to movement. Like I usually train like almost every day. It's not always high intensity, but I'm moving. And so I feel like that the high from the exercise kind of carries over into the evening. And I'm just kind of naturally chipper and feeling good anyways.
I think there is a big shift for a lot of people to go away from alcohol and to not have that pressure as much as it used to be. Because I remember I quit alcohol 2015 to 2018. I didn't drink in that 3-year period because I was competing in bodybuilding at the time. And so for me, it was like alcohol was a no-go. It was just like not something in my life. And at that time, I was finishing my master's degree and just starting my career. And I had just moved to Toronto at that time. So like trying to make friends, trying to be social, like at an age, like in your 20s, your early 20s. So when there's a lot of, and I remember there was so much pressure and people are like, just have a drink. Just like, I remember there was a lot of pressure, or people, if I told them I didn't drink, they'd be like, what's wrong with you? Are you on antibiotics? Are you pregnant? Like things like that you would ask. And I'm like, it's interesting how it's shifted because I currently am not drinking at all. And I don't get those questions anymore. I don't know if it's just the age that I'm in now, or I do see a big shift to having more non-alcoholic options. And like, it's normalized to, you can order a mocktail at a bar and it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I think we're really lucky in the Bay Area, especially, and I'm sure it's like this other places around the US and other countries as well, but there's definitely a bigger shift to having more options and those being super normalized, like non-alcoholic beers was the big one. And then you get, really big tasty options, big brands, tasty options that you can go to. And then other cocktails as well, or non-alcoholic wine, definitely lots of mocktails on menus now. But I think that one of the biggest markets is, or has been, the non-alcoholic beer. And more and more people I know are hinging that way, even in my age group as well. But a lot of them, I would say the majority of them are fitness focused. A lot of the guys I know who they paddle a lot or they're doing big endurance activities, things like that. There's just been a big shift from being more of a pressure to drink and drink socially to being able to make those non-alcoholic choices without as much pressure as before.
Yeah, it seems like there's a generational shift happening as well. I noticed that a lot of the older people in my life drink more, and then the younger the person is going down the line, the less they drink. It seems like younger people are not drinking as much anymore. And I think I was reading an article, I can't remember where I saw this, but it was basically saying a lot of the breweries and like smaller, more local places are going under because younger people and just people in general are not drinking as much, and they're having a hard time keeping their doors open because there are less customers. People just aren't consuming as much. So it seems like there's a bit of a shift going on. I assume that this is partially depending on where you live. I think certain parts of the country are definitely not quite in the same place. I mean, we were all in Nashville earlier this year. I don't think they're quite on the same vibe, at least in that little pocket that we were in, which is very isolated. I'm sure it's different outside of Nashville proper, but I think, Milad, it sounds like for you, part of the reason that this hasn't been like a wild and crazy change is because you already have that foundation of good habits and boundaries set. So when you added another layer and kind of like up to the challenge one more level, it wasn't anything that anyone in your social circle found to be like peculiar or odd or unlike you. It was just like, this is Milad doing something that is going to make him feel good. And that's what Milad kind of always does anyway. He's always looking for different ways to up the ante, make himself feel better, support his health, etc. So that's something to kind of think about, I think, in terms of anyone that is trying to make a change. And it doesn't necessarily have to be alcohol. It could just be health behaviors in general. If you start kind of identifying as a person that takes good care of themselves and you start implementing behaviors where it becomes more and more obvious that this is a priority for you, that is eventually going to just become your norm. And the people that you surround yourself with are going to get used to it. And you might not be someone that they immediately look at and think like, oh yeah, that's the, I don't know, French fry guy. They'll think of you more as like, oh, you know, instead of inviting that person to go out and like go crazy in consumption, maybe I'll invite them to go out on a hike instead or do something active or whatever. And that shift starts to occur. So I think thinking about your foundational habits, thinking about how to make your lifestyle shift as a whole can just lend to more opportunities to layer on positive habits and kind of like climb that ladder up to just being a person who's taking really good care of themselves.
And I also think it's a ripple effect too. I think sometimes it's like you're taking care of yourself, other people will take note and maybe they'll start to internalize it and make change in their lives too. Like I know I've noticed it with some of my friends that it's like I'm less likely to want to go out and drink with them now. And I'm telling them, let's go for a workout, let's go for a hike, let's do whatever. And then I'm seeing like there's actually friends that we went for brunch with this morning. It's this Persian couple that live in Toronto. And I remember like we used to take them to F45. We would force them. There's like something that was easy, a class that they was like not as scary. It was like a studio that it was owned by a Persian individual. And it was like, it was very like, it was a comfort, safe space for them. And it was really hard and it was really scary for them. And previously they would always want to eat restaurant food or drink. This is probably like 2 or 3 years into their journey. And I can tell that they've been internalizing like a lot of things that we've done and they've been implementing in their lives. And like, it was so amazing to see that they don't really drink anymore and that they're eating better and they've lost a ton of weight and they look healthy. And like to see that, it's like, I think sometimes we don't recognize how much we might be influencing others by our decisions, whether it's like us four or whether it's our clients or people that we're interacting with in terms of making our decisions.
Yeah. Okay, one other thing I wanted to talk about, and it's just the idea of discomfort, because this is something that I think, I don't know, I feel like Milad, when we go on long runs, we talk about all kinds of things, but one of the things that comes up consistently is this idea of discomfort and also the idea of pain and how we experience pain, how we interpret pain, and how when you expose yourself to discomfort and pain, which are similar things but are different, the more you experience it and the more you're exposing yourself to it, the kind of better you get at managing it and recognizing the different types of discomfort and the different types of pain. And when we're thinking about something like alcohol and or any pleasurable thing that's a habit that we are giving into regularly that might not be serving us anymore, and we think about removing that from our life, that is a form of discomfort. And really any change that we're making oftentimes is a form of discomfort. And I find in my practice that the people that really see the most success are the ones that start to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and are able to sit in that experience. So I kind of wanted to ask you, Milad, because you are a coach as well and you coach people all the time. Like, is there anything that you do to help people lean into that discomfort, like to encourage them to be cool with it?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's a very important lesson. It's definitely like a pillar of kind of leveling up your health and just even your mental health. And I feel like for the way that we coach, that part comes in after at least 12 weeks of working with the person. Like the way we approach coaching is like, okay, I want to create something with as little friction for you as possible. So talking about pain and discomfort and being that coach where it's like, well, you're going to suffer, like it's going to be hard. We don't immediately do that because the people that we work with, they're just starting from zero or negative numbers because they're in pain. So we start with just like reaffirming that you can move with relative ease, you can be functional. And then once you're just getting to baseline and building that confidence, that's when you start to push the envelopes. Like, okay, so for example, we have a lot of clients that are just dealing with very generic achy knees, right? Whether it be from jumper's knee, runner's knee, tendon stuff. And the first 12 weeks is just kind of getting them comfortable with movement. We're not even really going to address the knee too much, maybe indirectly. Like we're just getting you to do some bridges. We're just getting you to walk. We're just getting you to sleep better. We're just getting you to stretch. And then we're probably going to introduce something that actually involves the knee. And guess what? More than likely, you're going to experience some level of pain. And that expectation has to be set. And you're like, hey, this exercise is probably going to be painful. If it's over a 5 out of 10, stop. But if it's around that, that's a good signal. Like we need to teach your nervous system that that pain is tolerable and you can overcome it. It's going to take at least one exercise, but more than likely it's going to take weeks until your nervous system feels good. And you may never feel like that joint or that pain ever goes away. That's okay. You can still have functionality. And pain doesn't necessarily mean that there is something physically or chemically wrong. It's just a signal from the nervous system. And guess what? We don't even know like how that works still. Because the nervous system, the brain, the spinal cord, your neurons, it's still so complicated and we're constantly learning new things about pain science. But we know that you might have a herniated disc, like the MRI says you have a herniated disc, but you can deadlift your body weight and not be symptomatic, and that's okay. So live with the pain, be okay with it. We've built the trust so far. Trust yourself, trust the coach, trust the process, and get used to a little bit of that discomfort. And then the fun part comes once more healing occurs. And then, sometimes we work with athletes, and I think it's really fun with athletes because, I mean, we're all athletes here and we've all experienced some sort of prep or pushing ourselves to a certain threshold. And sometimes even being able to push yourself mentally past your physical limit and things break down. So that's cool too, because you're like, okay, you can handle it. And guess what? This is going to be a hard session. It's going to be a hard workout. Or like when you're racing or when you're doing this, it's going to be really, really tough. And some systems might shut down, but like push through it, hit the PR, you'll be fine. So yeah, for us, it's definitely part of it. But our approach, just like anything else, is like, we'll kind of ease into it and then you'll be able to handle it. And then eventually really handle it.
Yeah. Athletes definitely are very familiar with discomfort and pain. I think more so than people who are not athletes in some ways. But I think with nutrition specifically, there is some discomfort that needs to be navigated if you're trying to make a significant change in behavior. And that's where some people really thrive. They're here for it. They're ready for it. Some people have a higher threshold for it, or maybe just more curiosity about it than others, and they're able to manage it a little bit better. Whereas others really struggle and they're used to avoiding discomfort. And sometimes there is a realization that needs to take place where, you know what, there might be a little bit, not too much, just a little bit, should be manageable, but like just a little bit of discomfort that is required in order to see change. Some people get that. Some people, it takes a little bit more pushing. I'm just like so intrigued by this concept of discomfort. And then, of course, pain as a separate thing, but similar, and how different people work with it and manage it and become familiar with it and start to recognize that like, not all pain is necessarily bad or like an indicator that something is terribly wrong. It's just a message. And discomfort, similarly, is not going to kill you. Like, you're not going to die if you're uncomfortable. It's okay. Let's approach it with curiosity and use strategies and tools that we have in our toolbox to manage that discomfort in a way that is constructive rather than the opposite.
Totally. And I think there's lots of ways we can go about that too. And I'm thinking fitness for sure, but in terms of nutrition, thinking about kind of the outcome that you're looking to achieve. Are we choosing to eat differently? Are we choosing to give up alcohol? Are we choosing to make these changes for, whatever the reason is, but why? And then what outcome are we trying to achieve? And hopefully we can find that and keep using that as a motivator. So we can dig deep, whether it's for you, Milad, of giving up alcohol. Maybe it's because you want to feel different. You want to feel better. So once you start seeing those results, I think that can sometimes be cyclical. That's kind of more of I can't think of the word. It's just more encouragement to keep going. We keep pushing because all of a sudden we're starting to get those results we want. We feel good in terms of nutrition. You want to improve your GI function. And then once that starts happening, oh my gosh, let's keep going. It's working. It's worth it. If we want to change our body composition, same thing. So I guess, for Milad, for you, is what changes are you noticing so far with this journey?
I think the biggest change has been I've had this really awesome intrinsic motivation to just do things, get things done. I was going through a little bit of a creative career, just like existential crisis. Not crisis, but just like a lull, an existential lull. It wasn't that deep, but I was just like, man, I am tired of my routine. I don't feel inspired. I don't feel good. And then I would have just random bouts of imposter syndrome and just like, what am I doing? And I think part of it was maybe I wasn't walking the walk for me specifically. And I don't think that you need to do this as a coach or practitioner, but for me, it's very important to embody the things that I'm telling my clients. So if I'm telling my client like, hey, you should eat healthy, or like create a plate with, some protein, healthy fats, some vegetables, some carbs, it's okay to have some seed oils, whatever. Like I need to be doing that myself. If I'm not doing that, when I give that advice, it feels inauthentic to me and I can't operate like that. So I think that was part of the deal. And when I quit or when I started this experiment, it kind of gave me some more confidence in myself. It's like, hey, I can do this. And then I think just like the lift of the brain fog and not being hungover and not falling into those habit loops of like, just, hey, 2 days out of the week, you're going to feel bad because you had poison. So taking those 2 days out allowed me to be creative, allowed me to like think of fun things to do. And because I'm not hungover, I'm like getting out there and I'm, creating new programs, updating our app, experimenting with my content creation, my marketing. And I'm also able to kind of spend more time with the people that I love. So the downstream effects are just like there's just been so many of them, so many positive ones. And I'm someone that's kind of dialed into how certain habits or certain behaviors can have those downstream effects, because it's something that we coach all the time. It's like, hey, and I'm sure y'all do it too with your nutrition clients, like pick some anchor behavior, an anchor habit, and just do that thing every day. And I guarantee you there's going to be a downstream effect. And because you coach it, you're also just kind of analyzing your own life. And for me, I'm like, wow, there's definitely just been all these little wins around the experiment of not drinking, which feels really good. And I think, Summer, what you were talking about, the deeper why, that's something that we always start with in our coaching process, is like establish your deeper why. So when things get bad or you're unmotivated or when you're uncomfortable, you refer back to your deeper why. I think originally my deeper why was just like, hey, it's an experiment. But now it's kind of forming, like, you know, when a scene is blurry and then it like unblurs and then you see a beautiful vista, that beautiful vista is forming for me. I'm not 100% sure what it looks like, but I know it's something cool and I know it's related to not drinking.
Have you been journaling at all during this process?
I wish I could say yes, but I haven't been journaling. And I mean, you know me. So like I do a lot of journaling. I meditate. Like I had a pretty strict morning routine for years. Like it's like non-negotiables, wake up, journal, meditate, and like read. But it's been weird because I haven't been doing those things, but I have been very productive. And then I would say just in terms of mental health, it's been great. But I think the reason I can't answer the deeper why question is because I haven't really stepped back at that level to be introspective. And I don't know if it's time for that yet. Like maybe at day 90 is time for that introspection. I'm someone that's always been like, yes, let me introspect, let me analyze myself, let me get in my head, like what's going on. But I've reached a season of life where like, let's not do that. Like things feel good, you're productive, you're doing the thing, you're showing up for others, showing up for yourself. Let's just keep this ball rolling and see where it goes.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to just be, like to just exist and
Yeah.
experience and not spend time like super trying to dig in and figure out like that deeper why and like I don't know. So it can be kind of exhausting sometimes, always trying to dig into what you're really experiencing and like all the things around it. And sometimes it feels like we're making it more complicated than it needs to be. I am a person definitely who I struggle to find my deeper why sometimes. I like just do things and I'm not digging deep and like trying to find a deep purpose behind all the reasons that I'm doing all the things. But I do find that to be valuable. It's just not always easy depending on what you're trying to figure out. But the reason I asked about journaling was because I know that you have historically done a lot of journaling. And I was thinking it could be kind of interesting to sort of document this process along the way. And you were talking about all of these different benefits that you're noticing in tiny ways. And it could be kind of cool to collect those like a lab journal, really. We're experimenting here. So
Yeah.
obviously, also, it's cool to not do that. Sometimes it's nice to just not.
I do like it though, because every time I reference an old journal entry, it's like super fruitful because I don't know if everyone else has this experience, but I feel like my memories have been very unreliable as of late. And like a lot of cool things happen and I kind of just forget that they happen unless I see like, you know, the iPhone photos gives you like the memories and you're like, "Oh, yeah, I did do that. Like that was pretty cool." And I think it's important. I remember Tara, you were I think yesterday you were like, "Oh, I'm gonna go home and journal." Or did you do that?
Yep. Yeah, I did. I don't normally journal during the middle of the day, but
Yeah.
I wanted to sit down and think about my goals for 2026, not just the fitness ones, but also mostly my business related goals since I am really trying to focus on my private practice this year and grow it. And that's going to take a lot of work and a lot of strategy and a lot of intention. And I felt like I needed to just take some time and get it down on paper and kind of strategize around that. So I did do that yesterday. I journal every morning though, and I have for a couple years now, probably about 2 years. And I don't really miss it. I don't really miss a day. I'm trying to think of a scenario where I've missed a day and I kind of can't think of one, but it's really short and sweet, like a really quick one. And I feel like it just helps me kind of like do a little bit of reflection, set intentions for the day, and feel like I'm in a good routine. And yeah, I like it for that purpose. Was there anything else we wanted to cover today?
I think that's it. This was super interesting and really inspiring. Definitely, even if you're not ready to start, that particular journey of giving up alcohol, that's not what we're pushing here, but doing something to look forward to or help yourself or better yourself, feel better internally, externally. I think this is all really great information and really, really inspiring to hear your journey and see how much it's helped you.
Yes. Milad, thanks for coming on today. It's always a pleasure to ponder things with you and talk about what you're working on and what we're all working on and just go on short tangents about different topics and all that. I have been wanting to have you on for a long time. So thank you for being here.
Yes. I think today's been really good in the sense of like getting people thinking. I think that's the thing. It's just getting that brain moving and grooving and thinking about what really serves them, what is holding them back or helping them push forward, and figuring out that, I think it's sometimes just figuring out that anchor.
So Milad, if people want to get in touch with you and or check out your app, which we didn't get to talk about today, but Milad has a really awesome app that you should all check out. What's the best way for people to get in touch?
Best way is to check out our Instagram profile, I would say. So just at Tailored Fit PT. Shoot us a message. The app is on the apps, any of the app stores. It's called Tailored Fit PT Longevity. It has all of our kind of staple programs, again, focused around functional training, longevity training, a lot of preventive injury prevention protocols on there for all the major joints, and then just some other fun little things. There's a 30-day trial for that, so you can try it out. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. That was like it felt like 10 minutes, you know?
That's every single episode. It's usually we're like, yeah, we're just going to be doing half an hour. And
this
then
is a quick one.
Oh, that's an hour and 10 minutes. I'm like, oops.
We have a lot to talk about, and it's fun to talk. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you all for joining us on today's episode of the Nutrition Digest podcast. Make sure to like, follow, share with a friend. And thank you, of course, Milad, for joining us today. It has been a pleasure.